It finally happened, and we can finally put this to rest. Or can we? Find out what I mean by that, plus the other crazy trade that happened across the league and more. So without wasting any more time, let's dive right into it. What's up, y'all, and welcome to Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Olde City Sports Network, the best network for all your Philadelphia sports needs. This is your host, Michael Roscoe. It is officially June, which means we are another month closer to NFL football, and June marks the beginning of both Pride Month and Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, so I wanted to take a brief moment to bring awareness to these causes. And before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to bring attention to Olde City Sports Network's newest sponsor, W Energy. W Energy is a powdered, make-it-yourself energy supplement to help get your day started. An FDA-registered and GMP-compliant company. Use promo code OldCitySports10 for 10% off of W Energy's website for all of their products, including the new Blueberry Shaker. Check them out at w.gg today. Now for this week's topics. Starting off, Eagles add to the running back room. So, the Birds add more depth to their running back squad, signing former 49ers and Chiefs running back Elijah Mitchell. Mitchell's best season came in his rookie year, in which he rushed for just under 1,000 yards and scored 5 touchdowns in 11 games. However, since then, there hasn't been much production from him, and last season, he only appeared in 1 game with the Chiefs. I imagine that this is just a camp signing considering the level of talent we already have in the running back group. However, he was part of an offense that inspired Sean Mannion's offense, so this could be an opportunity for Mitchell to make the roster, but also a potential opportunity for the rest of the running back room to learn off of what Mitchell can offer to them. In other news, Eagles release a popular veteran. In the midst of all the A.J. Brown trade drama, one piece of news seemed to slide under the radar, and that was the release of All-Pro defensive end Brandon Graham. However, there's no need to panic. According to Sports Illustrated, the Birds do have plans to bring him back if he chooses to return, of course. His release was merely procedural, as doing so will save just over $1 million, I think it's like $1.3 million in cap space. If Graham does return, I got to imagine he's going to have limited snaps considering his age and the level of talent in the pass rusher room. However, I do believe his nearly 17 years of NFL experience, as well as his leadership experience specifically with the Eagles, are valuable to this team, and he's not a bad player by any means to have far down a depth chart. Hopefully, Graham does decide to give it one more year as an Eagle. All right, next we're going to dive into the trades. The first of the 2 big trades we'll talk about is Myles Garrett. So while this may not involve the Eagles, it is a massive blockbuster trade. The Cleveland Browns have traded All-Pro defensive end and arguably the best defensive player in the league, Myles Garrett, to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for edge rusher Jared Verse, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2029 third-round pick. The Rams really are being like, fuck them picks, bro, this year, because earlier they traded away 3 2026 draft picks, which included a first, a fifth, and a sixth rounders, as well as a 2027 third-round pick. They are loading up at players at the expense of a fuck ton of picks. Anyway, it's definitely a wild trade, even in light of all the Myles Garrett trade speculation that had been coming about in the news recently. And so, how have the Eagles played into this trade, or how does it involve them in any way? Well, apparently, the Eagles were in the mix for trading for Garrett, and the Browns had some offers for the Birds in exchange for him. However, part of what the Browns were asking for included All-Pro defensive tackle Jalen Carter, and Howie said no. Additional names were floated around, including Nolan Smith Jr. and Jalix Hunt. I respect Howie not only for pushing for the trade, but also not sacrificing the young talent he's worked so hard to build at the expense of a blockbuster trade. The Birds do have to play the Rams in week 4, so that's going to be fucking rough. I ain't going to lie to y'all. Anyway, the Birds do miss out on Myles Garrett, but I still believe we have a solid young group of all-star defensive linemen who are going to be able to get the job done this year. And the last trade we'll talk about, of course, is the A.J. Brown trade becomes official. In a completely shocking, and by completely shocking, I mean totally fucking obvious move, the Philadelphia Eagles have traded wide receiver A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots in exchange for a 2028 first-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick, which will be the better of New England's 2 fifth-round picks. After hearing about this shit, the least kept secret in sports history, the move is official. I certainly have mixed feelings on this one. On one hand, it became increasingly fucking obvious over time that AJ was giving stat chaser vibes and that he didn't want to be in Philly anymore. We saw him drop more passes than he ever had in his career. He was noticed to be slowing up on routes. He wasn't committed to the team 100%, and it fucking showed. Prior to the 2025 season, he went to 2 Super Bowls with the Birds, won one of them, and had more than 1,400 yards in 2 of those 3 seasons, and 7 or more touchdowns in all 4 of his seasons with the Birds. And yet he still wasn't satisfied with being an Eagle. He felt he wasn't targeted enough, so he bitched about it, but then he drops the ball, literally and metaphorically, when he does get those targets. And then on top of that, target feeding him actually hurt the fucking team. When A.J. Brown had 9 or less targets, the Birds went 7-2. But when A.J. Brown had 10 or more targets, the Birds went 3-3. The whole thing is giving Terrell Owens vibes, and no matter how much talent you have, if a player doesn't want to be somewhere, it's going to show in their performance, and that's exactly what happened to A.J. Brown. So all things considered, I'm happy about this trade. Now, on the other hand, from a cumulative standpoint, A.J. Brown has been one of the best Eagles receivers in modern franchise history. In 4 seasons, he has racked up 339 catches on 521 targets, which is a 65% catch rate, over 5,000 yards, and 32 total touchdowns. It would be incorrect to say he has not had a positive impact on his team, despite the difference in performance during the 2025 season. He wasn't the only part of the Eagles' success, but he certainly played a huge part in it all. You can't argue that he's been a vital component of the Eagles' success over these last 4 years, and that's something that I'm going to miss and feel some type of way about with this trade. So that's basically a summarized stance on how I feel about this trade. Definitely a mixture of happy and sad. But now looking at this trade from a pure business standpoint, some people think General Manager Howie Roseman got fleeced because he only got a first and a fifth in return for A.J. Brown, while other receivers such as Jalen Waddle were traded for more picks. The thing is, though, if you look at this trade from a deeper level, the return on investment is definitely worth it. When the Birds traded for A.J. Brown, they gave away a first-round pick and a third-round pick. Now with trading A.J. away, they get back that first-round pick. Additionally, they got a player for 4 years who helped the Birds get to the playoffs in each of those 4 years and 2 Super Bowl appearances and a championship, along with everything else in between. The return on investment is astounding, and I don't think that Howie got fleeced with all things considered. Do I wish the Birds got more compensation for the trade? Of course I do, but realistically, I don't think we could have gotten more than what we did. And Howie still maintains his streak of being one of the most analytical and dominant GMs in the league. And now, with this trade being officially done, you'd think people could finally move past it, specifically with the drama, and get on with their lives. Well, you'd be wrong, because several post-trade events have stirred up even more drama, which we're going to dive into right now. So part of the drama that happened after this trade was this idea that the Eagles were just work. So, after the trade became official, A.J. Brown hosted Mariah Taylor of NBC Sports in his home for an interview, in which he sported a New England Patriots man cave rug that he has reportedly had for years, including during his time on being with the Eagles. I don't recall what the question was that Taylor asked exactly, but AJ Brown apparently stated that, quote, playing for the Eagles was just doing what I was supposed to be doing, while his true heart belonged to New England. Yeah, I can see how that doesn't sit well with a lot of Eagles fans. It kind of doesn't sit well with me either. Listen, there's probably tons of players in the league who were fans of different teams than the ones that they currently play on, and may still hold on to that fandom a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the difference in this situation, though, is regardless of the fandom, the majority of players play their hearts out for the team that they are on, and for AJ to minimize his own accomplishments and state that playing for them was basically like a dead-end job that you're stuck in, it doesn't fly well. But then again, this statement doesn't surprise me considering this trend of a lack of desire to be in Philly from him anymore. And another piece of drama that we'll end this week's episode on is the potential, again, I say potential, real reason behind the fallout of AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. Okay, so there's this rumor floating around that the real reason AJ and Jalen had falling out stems from a massage therapist. And no, this isn't a Deshaun Watson type of situation. Just hear me out. So according to Montesimba on X, he had received a DM from a, quote, trusted source stating that back around in 2023, I want to say it was, AJ Brown and former Eagles pass rusher Hassan Reddick were both physically involved with an unnamed massage therapist, yet AJ Brown didn't know about Reddick's alleged involvement with that same therapist. But apparently, Jalen Hurts somehow found out about all this, but he didn't say anything about it because that's not his business. Well, I guess Brown found out that Jalen knew about it and never told him, and that the reason Jalen never told AJ about it was because Jalen is his sole focus is on football and not wanting to get involved with drama, especially drama that doesn't involve him. And AJ took that as a betrayal because he's expecting blind loyalty, essentially. Even with Reddick getting traded to the Jets, that apparently wasn't enough to satisfy AJ. Then come the 2024 season, AJ still feeling some type of way. The offense moves into this more run-heavy scheme, and even though they won a Super Bowl, AJ still isn't happy. Then come 2025, you got AJ Brown contemplating making an official trade request as far back as week 4 of the season. And mind you, AJ started dating his now wife back in 2022, just throwing that out there. So, if, and this is a big if all of that is true, that is absolutely fucking wild. And to me, it would only be fitting that AJ goes to Mike Vrabel's team considering his latest antics. But again, this is just an anonymous rumor, and there is, at this moment, no true verification of any of these events actually occurring. But nonetheless, it's more drama to keep this conversation about the trade going, even though it already happened and people still can't seem to stop talking about it. All right, y'all, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok by searching 2nd and 15 or by the full name 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast. You can also find the audio for each and every single episode releasing Thursday mornings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Player FM, or wherever you get your podcasts, with the video uploading to YouTube later that same day. Once again, thanks y'all for joining in. This is 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Olde City Sports Network. We will see you all next week. Don't forget to stay fly like an eagle, and as always, go Birds!